Good evening. Welcome. So we're just going to wait for people to join us, guys. Sometimes people take a couple of minutes to log on if they're not used to it. There are quite a few of us this evening. So whilst we're waiting for people, well, I'll just clean my glasses. But just sit quietly. No particular purpose. Just feel the breath. Feel your body. Just sitting quietly, allowing people to join us for this evening. So I think technically we're all well. If anybody has any problems, it might be worth just shutting down and signing back in again, or just refreshing your browser. You actually don't need to see me, guys, if you have any problems with the visual. Yeah, most people can see and hear me anyway. But it's more important that you hear what's going on. Yeah. Someone's got a blank screen. We can only spend a few minutes, guys, going through technical, otherwise we can spend all evening doing it. You'll have to sort it out your end, because this end is okay. And most people are joining. And you can join via YouTube as well. I think we have to get it working via YouTube and not webinar, John. Well, there you go. So just a few seconds pause, guys, that's all. Okay. So voice dialogue. Who's living your life? Voice dialogue. It's one of my favorite themes. There was once a tiger that was, I'll cut a long story short, there was once a tiger that was brought up by goats. And it started to act like a goat, started to bleat like a goat, and act like a goat. Okay? He believed it was a goat. Then along comes a tiger one day and all the goats run off. But this tiger goat is intrigued. He's not frightened. And the other tiger, the new tiger, asks it what it's doing. Why are you with goat? And said, well, I'm a goat. Said, well, you're not, you're a tiger. Anyway, to cut a long story short, he gives him some meat and he starts to sniff the meat and he gets excited and starts to eat it and at some point it starts to roar. And that roar, it said, is the roar of awakening. And then as the story goes on, it gets in touch with its true nature. So what happens, I'm just going to put a message there, guys, via YouTube problems. So we're like the tiger. We can act like a goat, believe we're a goat. We haven't had, not many of us have had the roar of awakening yet. But that roar of awakening is when something in our armor cracks and something comes through. Let me put it another way. We're all brought up into this world. And when we're from the age of 18 months, 2 years, we begin to develop a certain way of behaving. Okay? We develop strategies. We develop what we call subpersonalities to help us conform to the ideal to which we need to conform to so we don't get hurt. And as we grow, these subpersonalities develop. And these subpersonalities at some point begin to run our life, to live our life for us. So we think we're a goat when we're a tiger. So for instance, we might think, I need to be nice to people. So we develop, a people pleaser develops. Maybe we lose that part of us that can't say, no, that's enough. These subpersonalities develop and our true nature, as it were, gets shunted or banished to the background. So we are not living our life. It's like we're driving a car and these subpersonalities are in the front seat, all vying for the steering wheel, for the driving seat. And we're in the back. Okay? Wanting to live the life we want, wanting to be free and to roar. So I'm just going to name a few of these inner selves, energy patterns, or subpersonalities. I prefer the term subpersonalities because they are personalities. So there's the people pleaser. The common ones in a particular culture, sort of North European culture, the people pleaser, the perfectionist, the controller, the protector. Let these resonate. Notice how you feel when I mention these. The victim, the saboteur, the fixer, the rescuer. Are you getting there? Yeah. The guilty one, the guilty self, the guilty personality. So these are some of the selves that begin to develop. We can have a part that can't say no, and that is there in our relationships, causing resentment. I've written down a few more here. Oh, yes. Oh, such a good one. The rational self, the rational personality. Now, we need to be rational at times, but if that's in charge, it blocks out any other way of perceiving the world, like intuitively or just sensing, instinct. The rational side, everything's got to be explained, and the world is black and white. So the world isn't black and white, I'm afraid. The responsible self. I'm just naming some of these. I just want you to get a sense of some of these personalities. The responsible self. We are going to do some practice. Okay. So as we are young, we don't need a responsible self when we're young, but when we get into our teenage years, and we develop a responsible self, and we need to. But then a responsible self can just take over, and the fun goes out of life. We don't know how to lie down on the couch anymore, how to get a novel. We don't know how to. Well, if the responsible self is in the ascendancy, the opposite, positive opposite, gets banished. So we're not very good at maybe just having a fun time, just saying, "Hey, it doesn't matter for a while. Let's have some fun." Being irresponsible. Victim. Yeah, there's a part that if we find ourselves overeating a lot, there's a part that overeats. With voice dialogue, you can talk to any part of you at all. It's a wonderful, immediate, instant method of accessing these personalities. So we access what we call the dominant ones, the heavyweights, but that opens the door for us to speak to the ones that are being banished. Maybe the courageous self, the part that can say no, the assertive voice. Maybe we haven't got a very strong rational self, so that might need to come in. The compassionate heart. See, if the critic or the judge is strong, as it is in our culture, the compassionate heart gets pushed out. Okay. So if you want to, feel free to just send in chat any other personalities that you can think of, might be from your own life, your own being, that are in your life. Yeah. Just send a few over if you want to. Okay. So they're just so. Another part that's can be quite common, the part that withdraws, the part that doesn't want to be seen. And somebody else might have a part that always needs to be seen. I need to be seen. I need to be seen. I need to be the star of the show. If I'm not the star of the show, what am I? It's scary. What's really scary is if you have a strong people pleaser, to challenge them, to confront somebody can be really scary. So this is what voice dialogue does. It accesses these parts so that we become more balanced. Okay. Now we're just going to play with this for this evening. We're just going to play with a little, with a few of these personalities. But if this gets too much for anybody, I want you to stop. Just stop doing it. Okay. Please You need to be responsible. The responsible one needs to be here, okay? I'm not responsible for you. You need, if it gets too much, just back off. Just stop. It's quite direct, okay? I'm going to do a short session now. Let's just have a couple of minutes quiet before we do. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask to speak to a part of you. And what I want you to do, when I ask, I want you to shift in your seat. Just shift a little in your seat. Then I'm going to speak to that part of you, okay? And also from this evening, and there's more evenings to come, guys, I'm going to show you how to do this by yourself also, okay? It's better with a facilitator, but you can also do this by yourself. So let's start off with a light one. No, it's quite a strong one, but it's not threatening at all. I'm going to ask to speak to your wild one. Because when a responsible one comes, or a rational one, there's no room for that sort of thing anymore, being wild. And so I'm going to ask to speak to your wild self. Can I speak to the wild self, please? Shift in your seat. Hello, speak to me. Hello. Hello. So you're the wild self, the wild one. Yeah. Welcome. Are you around much in the life of the self? Okay. Would you like to be around more? Yeah. If you were around more, what would you bring to the life of the self? Tell us what you'd bring. Power, strength, joy, fun, all of them. Wonderful. When you're here, whilst you're here now, when you're here, how do you make the self feel right here? Freedom. Someone's put down freedom. Freedom. You bring freedom. Wonderful. Great. You make the self feel great. Lovely. How do you make the self feel in the body? What's your energy like in the body? Wonderful. How old are you? Is the wild one. Yeah. Young, old, ageless, doesn't matter. So if you were standing outside of the self, what would you be? What would you look like? You may be a teenager. What would you look like? What would you be wearing? Lovely. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's a massive energy, sort of bubbly, sort of high. Yeah, lovely. Yeah. You'd be good for the self, wouldn't you? Yeah. So what would you like to say to the self? The self maybe hasn't listened to you for a long time. What would you like to say to the self? What would you like the self to do to have you around more? What would you like? Go dancing, running, whatever. It doesn't matter. You just tell him. Tell him or her. What would you like to do? What do you enjoy doing? Now's your chance. Okay. Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to say? Okay. So last question. Where do you live in the body? Yeah, sometimes you want the self to stop being so bloody serious. Responsible. Yeah. So where do you live in the body? Here, here, the back, head. Yeah. So, okay, now actually one more question. How would the life of the self change if you were around maybe another 10 or 20%? If you were around a little bit more, how would it change? How would the life of the self change? Okay. Okay. Not so heavy, yeah. So thank you. I'd like to speak to the self again, please. So just shift back in your seat. Okay, so that's your introduction to it. Relax with more awareness. Lovely. So please send over any responses from that, guys, and then I can respond to them. So we've got some coming here. Stop being so serious, which I mentioned. Not so heavy. We can be very heavy, can't we? Oh, we're walking around with this. And see, these selves that are being banished can bring lightness. They can bring both strength and lightness at the same time. You look at lots of Buddhist iconography, Buddhist images, and these images are portraying or conveying these two different energies. There's a lightness about them. They're holding a beautiful flower, a beauty and lightness, and they've got a sword. It's wonderful. They're not contradictory. They're seemingly contradictory, but they're not. Okay. So just send some over. Send any comments over how you found it, what happened for you. Just a few words if you want. You don't need to write an essay. The word that kept coming to me and I was feeling was brighter, more energized, lovely. See, these are energies. They're called energetic selves or energy patterns. Energetic selves is a good term as well. Their energy, that can change our posture. I've seen people, when I've done this, I've seen people's posture change in the room. Their face changes. They want relaxed with more awareness. Yeah. If we have the wild self, it can connect us with people, connect us with nature. It can make us more relaxed. Because the wild self is not frightened, see? That's the job of another self. Yeah. You see, we can get in touch with the relaxed self. Once when I was doing this, I got in touch with the part of me that sees the world, sees beauty in the world. And when when he was here, I was just looking around the room. What a room. Why haven't I noticed this before? The colours, the shapes. Okay. Feel free to send any over, guys, if you want to. Another one earlier was the age of the wild self, the wild personality, was a teenager. See, we leave these behind often. Often not always, but often the wild one is a teenager. And as we become responsible, we leave the teenager behind. I mean, I'm laughing. It's actually not funny when you're in that, because that wild one, it brings that sense of life. It's a life force. Okay, so we're just going to go quiet for a few moments, guys. Just a pause. I want to punctuate the evening with pauses. Okay, a kind of mindfulness, meditation. Just coming back. Just pausing. Okay. Okay. So we're going to do one of the heavyweights. I'm not going to finish on this one because I like to finish on something light, but I do want to do one of the heavyweights. Let's do the responsible one. And see, the reason we do it, guys, it may not be very pleasant actually when we're in there with it, but the reason we do this, we get to know how for example, the responsible one, how it functions, why it's here, how it developed, how it functions, how it gets you to be responsible when often you want to do something else. Okay, and see, the responsible one can call on the guilty one. So hey, she's not doing what she's supposed to do. So the guilty one comes in. Oh yeah. Oh, I feel good. Oh, I need to do it now because it's yeah. So they call on their allies. So actually, no, I'm going to change it. We're going to do the guilty one. I think it's more relevant. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to ask to speak to the guilty one. And when I do, I want you to shift in your seat. I'm going to speak to the guilty one, the guilty self, the guilty personality. Can I speak to the guilty part, please, the guilty personality? Hello. So you're the guilty self. Yeah. Are you around much in the life of the self? Yeah. So what's your purpose in the life of the self? Okay. Are you good at your job? Very good. Yeah. Keep them grounded. Very good. Yeah. How do you do what you do? How do you make the self feel guilty? What's your method? How do you do it? Hmm. What thoughts do you use? What are your favourite phrases? If you want the self to feel guilty, what do you tell the self? Yeah. And when you're around, what do you bring to the body? What do you do to the body? Bring massive contractions to the body. Yeah, you make. How do you make the body feel? Contracted? Yeah. So the things you tell the self, maybe things like you can't do that. What about other people? Are they the type of things you say? What would happen if the self didn't believe you? What would happen? Would the self be free? Would they be lighter, happier? Or would they be reckless? Yeah. Do you speak quietly to the self or do you shout? And what's your greatest fear? As the guilty one, what's your greatest fear? Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Not being in control, of course. So you work with the controller. If you stood outside of the self, what would you look like? Okay. Okay. So we're going to bring this one to an end. Just shifting your seat. Can I speak to the self again, please? Thank you very much. Can I speak to the self again, please? Are you back with me? See, they can be quite heavy, can't they? These, when you get these undiluted, pure, the guilty one just there telling us how it functions, why it functions. There's a lot more we can do with these, and we will in future ones. But I want to work with the heavyweights and the ones that are banished to balance us up. So we'll work with both. So letting go of being the victim, yeah, not being in control. Someone's victim said, I shout at the self. Another guilty one says, you can't do that. What about other people? So these are the phrases that the guilty one can use. See, this is our conditioning. It's not who we are. Do you see that? We're being conditioned to act like this by our upbringing. And this is not blaming anybody, okay? Because we're all subject to it. Every one of us. But sometimes because they become so strong and tight that they give no room for happiness or joy, ease, and courage. That's what we're going to speak to next. We're going to speak to the courageous one, but not just yet. We're going to have a few minutes. Okay. I hope you're getting a sense of what we're doing here, guys. Lots of self-blame. Yeah. You can speak to the blamer. The one who always blames. There's nowhere you can't go with this. But see, in between speaking to these selves, we always come back to what we call the everyday self, or the aware ego. I actually prefer the term the everyday self. Just this everyday self, so I can see what's going on. I can see this part of me, that part of me, this part of me, that part there that does that. So let's just have a short pause. So we just come back to the body. Okay. So just before I move on to the courageous one, the part of us that has courage. What a wonderful self that is. That a lot of us lose contact with because we have to conform. We have to be a people pleaser. People have to like us. We become a goat rather than a tiger. You can even speak to characters in dreams. I've spoken to a lion before in a dream. And I've spoken to people's characters in dreams. Why are they there? Why did you pee in the dream of the self last night? Because of this, this, this. Wow. I've spoken to a crocodile in someone's dream. Animals are interesting because they're part of our instinct. The want to get back is She's not in touch with me. He's not in touch with me. I want him to feel me, to get me back in his life. I can be a real asset. I can be wonderful for him or her. I can really help out. But he's frightened of me. So slowly we begin to integrate these other selves into our life. We loosen the grip of the heavyweights and we integrate these other selves. Okay, just before we move on to yes, this is a standalone evening, and there's another free one, so you're welcome just to come to these free ones, okay? You really are. But I'm also running a series of 4 of these longer evenings. Well, we're going to go more in depth to them, and towards the end, after the session, I'm going to put an offer up on the board if you want to come along. But feel free just to do the free ones if you want to. It's the 4 evenings starting from February the 12th, 4 Mondays. And if you sign up, you get access to the recording, so don't worry about missing them. We're going to go more in depth, okay? Looking at the different selves and taking them deeper and trying to make it more personal, more personalized. Okay. But for now, I'm going to ask to speak to the courageous self. Can I speak to the part that has courage, please? Hello. So you're the part that has courage. You're the courageous part. Yeah. Welcome. Nice to see you. Is it good to be around? Yeah. Good. Are you around much in the life of the self? Would you like to be around more? Yeah. Yeah. You'd be good for the self, wouldn't you? Tell me what you'd bring. What would you bring to the life of the self? Power? Strength? Purpose? Whatever. You tell me what would you bring to the life of the self? Confidence. Wonderful. And can you feel that now? Can the self feel it? Lovely. Confidence. What else would you bring? So you're the courageous one. You come here and you're here. Unconditioned presence. Beautiful. Anything else? Self-belief. There's another one. Yeah. How would you change the life of the self? What would change in the life of the self? Another one. Trust. What would change in the life of the self? How would they change? Would they be more honest, more forthright, more direct? Whatever. Would they walk differently? So if you, as the courageous one, if you were standing here outside of the self, what would you look like? You are full of courage. So what would you look like? tall, strong. What would you be wearing? Strong. Beautiful. Yeah. Where do you live in the body? In the heart? The belly? Lovely. Okay. In the heart. Yeah. Okay. Can I speak to the self again, please? Let's just have a pause for a few moments, guys. Just get myself a drink of water. So I hope you get a sense of how these energies, how much could the courageous one help us? It's incredible. If that was more of a presence in our life, and there can be. What we do, we keep connecting with them, we keep finding more about them. And what happens is, without us even realizing, we start to see changes in our life. We start to notice, maybe we start to be more direct with our speech. Maybe we start to just start saying no when we never have done. That's interesting. Where did that come from? Maybe we're less anxious in a certain situation. But we keep revisiting them, so we get used to the energy. Oh, I have this courageous part. And slowly it begins to integrate. You can't help it, you can't stop it. If you do this, you can't stop it happening. Because you invite them in. You invite them in, and that energy becomes part of your functioning of the way you are. Okay. Now, there's a couple of ways of doing this by yourself. There's another free evening, I think it's the 30th of January, which you've got information for. So we're going to do it again then. But you can do this by yourself. It's different from being facilitated. But one way is, my favorite way is to, your dominant hand, take a pen in your dominant hand. Not now, but do it later. Mine's my right, so you take a pen in your right hand. And you speak to this, but speak to this part of you, write to this part of you. Maybe like the playful child, for instance. Or it might be the critic. You choose one and say, hello, critic, how are you today? And then you take the pen in your non-dominant hand and you respond back. Okay. Then you respond to that question. And then you do that for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And keep in touch with the energy in the body when you do it. And you find they say some surprising things. Because the left hand, or the non-dominant hand, represents that part of you. So it's undiluted. It's uncensored. Okay. So try it tomorrow. Pick one of these selves. Pick a one that's dominant and one that you'd like to have around more, like the assertive self or the mischievous self. Okay. The intuitive. We're going to do the intuitive self next time. Okay. So I'm going to put the offer for the course, guys. Feel free to sign up if you want to, or just do these free evenings, these standalone evenings. Okay, there's no pressure. So it is cheaper off this thing rather than a website. Don't do it via the website, guys. It's going to be more expensive if you did want to do it. So another way of doing it is take 2 chairs. Put yourself in one chair and another chair there. Then pick a self. And then, so let's say the critic again. So then you sit in the other chair and you be the critic talking back to the self. What does the critic want to say? I prefer the pen because it's much more there. But if you can find a partner to do this, brilliant. But you need a little bit of training. But do these with me. And you get a sense of how it works, the questions to ask. Because the question, you lead the question, one question leads into the next, then your response, the question is then, or rather, you're responding to the answers. And so you're gleaning more information about these characters, about these subpersonalities. Why do they act the way they do? Because they're not who we are. And on the course, guys, the course ceremony, we're going to start to get in touch with our true nature, awareness itself, the compassionate heart. But we need a bit longer for that, okay? The kind voice, the compassionate heart, the intuitive self, the wise personality, that wise part of us. Okay. These are other selves we can get in touch with. You know, if we've got a problem, a decision to make, what's really interesting is asking these parts of, let's say, the intuitive self. So you ask the intuitive self, what the self's got this decision to make. What do you think? An intuitive self, or the wise part, tells you. Oh, oh. You may not like what you hear. That's what's interesting. So you bypass our usual ways of making decisions, which is commonly with the rational self, or with the emotion, just the emotional self. But see, the wise self, or the intuitive self, is behind all that, behind it all. It takes into account the emotions, the rationale, the reason behind things, but it has this greater perspective on our life. And if we're not in touch with the intuitive self, we suffer. And that's one of my own personal favourites, speaking to the intuitive self. Someone a while ago spoke to my hedonist. I can be a bit of a hedonist. Spoke to a hedonist. Just want things, nice things all the time. Oh, yeah. But the hedonist is also a very generous part of me. He wants other people to have nice things. Wonderful when you start to, you know, it's like a magician pulling all these different coloured scarves out the hats. Blue, yellow, pink, green, purple, mauve, black, white. God, where did all these come from? No wonder I am the way I am. So on the next session is 30th of January, because I'm going to be away for most of January, guys. Another free session. The 4-weeker, they're going to be an hour and a half each evening. They start on the 12th of February. And if you do register, as I say, you get the recording so you can listen to them, view them later. Okay? And we'll be speaking to the intuitive self there, and the wise self. So I want us to get in touch with them. They're invaluable. And also things like the playful child. Where's the playful child gone? The cheeky self. Quite often, I'll get someone to speak to my cheeky self, because I like my cheeky self. My cheeky self, the cheeky self, or the mischievous self, it connects me with people. It's a little bit cheeky. Tells a little joke, teases a little bit. It connects me with people. So, and it brings lightness. Yeah. That's part of me that's very light. So I like to have him around. So there's nothing, no part of us that you can't speak to. It's a great coaching tool. I've used this by the swimming pool in Italy with somebody before. They said, "Oh, I said something like, I can't do that." And I said, "Oh, gosh, can I speak to the part that says you can't do that?" And bang, it's there. Where do you come from? Wonderful. And then as you get used to it, you can access these parts without the facilitator, although you need a facilitator to begin with. I'll be frank with you. Okay. Who knows what questions to ask? Because you start off here and you're going deeper and deeper and deeper, finding out more about the self, or this not self, this sub-personality. Okay. So thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure. I hope to see some of you on the 30th of January. And I'll see some of you before anyway, but into the settings. And I'm sure I'll see some of you on the 4-week course on this theme. Okay. Don't book via the website, by the way. It's too expensive. This is far easy and a lot cheaper. And if you miss out, email me. Don't do it via the website. Okay? Thank you very much, guys. Good night.